Cover Pro Columbus. Tune in and join us. Disrespected Media.
Hello and welcome to Cannonballs. Oh, what a great name for a podcast. I stole it. I'm Michael Arace, the host of this fine program, the proprietor of Disrespected Media LLC, and the runner of the disrespected.com website. That's where my writing appears. This is one of two podcasts I do. The other one's a Crucible. Very lucky to have back on the program Blue Jackets color analyst, original jacket, Jody Shelley, who got to call some fights recently, which I think he's George Matthews was the one. Let's start there. Did George Matthews, the first radio voice of the Blue Jackets, was he the one that convinced you to go into broadcasting?
Well, I'll tell you what, with George, it doesn't matter what he was doing. You wonder, whatever that guy's doing, he's doing it right, because he was always happy and passionate about whatever he did. And I only know him as a Blue Jacket radio host and play-by-play man, and he was organized, enthusiastic, and always had a smile on his face. You could tell by the energy of his voice. And I wouldn't say that he convinced me of it, but I always had a kind of a.
I was half joking there, Chef.
I was intrigued by his enthusiasm, but I wouldn't say that was the reason. Jeff Rimmer and Billy Davids were always great to me when we traveled together, and Jeff was always saying, "You got to get into broadcasting." And I like to talk. I like the game. I enjoyed interviews. I enjoyed hanging out in the locker room and shooting the breeze about the team and scenarios around the league. And then, when I retired, just before I retired, I was in Philly, and we had Bill Clement and Keith Jones on the plane, and I actually had a great afternoon in New York one day with Bill Clement, picking his brain about life and broadcasting. And Bill Clement is a Flyers legend and a Stanley Cup champion with them, and ESPN broadcaster, and he broadcasted on video games back in the 90s. He took his time, and he was great. And, he really opened my eyes to it. And then when I retired, I wanted to be in hockey operations like every former player, solve the problems of the organization and help with my input fresh out of the game.
When players retire, they know everything.
Everything. We learned it all in the back of the bus. We got all the solutions back there. If you want to know what needs to be fixed and how to fix it, you just come to the back of the bus. But John Davison was the president of the Blue Jackets at the time, Hall of Fame broadcaster, the John Madden of hockey. And he said, "I got nothing for you in hockey operations. Broadcasting." I said, "No way, Jose." And he said, "Come back in 2 weeks." And I said no, because I was in Philly, and I didn't want to hear myself talk and put myself out there to be criticized, if you will. And then I went back 2 weeks later, and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "I'm still very unsure." He said, "Just give it a chance. You'll enjoy the lifestyle." And he was right. It's like being a healthy scratch. I travel with the team. I'm involved with the team, except I don't have a curfew. And I don't have to be in shape. Oh, yeah, and I don't have to fight. No, it's a wonderful job. So he helped me along with, and then I started with Bob McElligott on radio. He was awesome. He just kind of threw me into the fire, which I thought it was going to be so easy, but it comes at you fast, and I learned a lot under Bob, and then got to work with Billy and Jeff. So it's been a really fun 13 years.
Wow, 13 years.
Can you believe it?
And it's your career as a broadcaster seems to be gaining momentum every year. I mean, for whom do you work at this point?
Well, I'm with Amazon Prime on Monday nights with John Forsland, your old buddy from the Whalers.
Yeah, the best in the business.
The best in the business. And then I'm fortunate enough to work with TNT in the U.S. I get 15 games with them, and then some playoff games. And then, of course, the best is the Blue Jackets job that I have. So those are the three broadcasting. It's been a busy year. It's going to be over 115, 120 games. But I love it. It's something I'm preparing now for my TNT game on Sunday, which is in Philadelphia. It's Philly and the Bruins, big game for everyone in the East.
Ooh,
And then the Monday coming up is the Winnipeg Jets. And I haven't even looked at who they're playing yet, but I know it's going to be a big game because they're back in the playoff picture. And the Blue Jackets will see them Saturday, so I have a huge advantage there to be able to do that.
Jody, how long did you play?
I
How many
played
years?
for 12 years.
Yeah, and then before that, how many years well, you had your 4 or 5 years in junior.
4 years in the minors, so 16 years
Yeah.
pro.
Okay, and do you know how many fights you had?
Well, in the NHL, I know they keep track. It was 176 over 12 years. That's busy.
I mean,
I think.
that's a tough way to earn a living, Shell.
Oh, I don't know how I did it, to tell you the truth. But I probably had that many in the minors, maybe 120 in the minors. It was a busy existence.
When you see something like, and I want to ask you about this, when you see something like Olivier Kastelik the other night, which was a total throwback fight, there was not too much technique there. That was grab and throw, and it was on at least one level very frightening. What goes through your mind as someone who's been in their skates?
There's a lot of excitement. You feel the energy of the crowd. I love that part. You don't mind getting punched in the face, but when I'm watching as a fan now, I'm like, ooh, that hurts. I love it. I love the passion of it. I love the excitement from everybody in the building. Um, what goes through my mind? I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore. That's really honestly what I think about is that, geez, I don't envy that whatsoever.
And there are, I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. There are men who've done that job who suffered health consequences because of it.
Yeah.
How are you?
No, that's, your career could be over in one punch, or one fall. And that was something that I think we carried with us in a lot of the fights, plus the anxiety going into a game. It wasn't so much the fight itself. That was the easy part. It's the anxiety of wondering, okay, I'm in St. Louis tonight. They got a couple guys. It's the night before the game. Wondering if it's going to happen. Are they going to be in the lineup? Do they want to fight? Can I get a fight? Am I going to be in the lineup? Those type of things you play with the whole time. And then when you're finally in warm up, you get the energy, you're there, you're moving, everything's going great. And then the fight happens, and once it's over, you're like, it wasn't that bad. But there was a lot of anxiety about the actual fight and the build up to that. And they would start the night before and carry out all through game day. And it was a lot to think about. Plus, actually think about playing hockey. I was a left winger. I had to think about my being reliable on the puck in the D zone, making a play in the neutral zone, what the neutral zone attack was, being on the forecheck, those type of things, not getting scored on. So you got a lot going on in your head, and it was always a relief when the fight was over, because then you could just relax and play hockey.
Oh, and have you spoken with Olivier since the Kastelik fight?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen Matthew since the fight. It's too bad he got hurt. I know the rest of the regular season, but that's part of that. Those things happen in fights. They happen in any situation on the ice.
When's the last time you saw one quite like that?
Well, I thought the Gabranson fight was a great fight too. Him and Janot. That was a heck of a night for fights. There's been a lot of good ones this year. But the thing about Olivier, he's got a technique even when it looks like he doesn't, because he stands square. And I used to stand and turn my head. And a true boxer, when I used to go with boxing coaches, would say, never turn your head. Keep your eye on the fighter and keep your chin tucked. And, it's like, okay, but I'm long and I'm in the fight and I'm in front of 18,000 people. I just don't want to get caught with a punch. So that was part of my defense. And you look at Olivier, he stands in there and watches those punches come. He's only focused on protecting himself with his shoulder, getting a good grab, and he's got a great straight right hand. And so his technique was. And I thought Kastelik was interesting because he rushed him. He didn't want to square off, and I thought that was a smart move against Olivier.
He went right after him. Yeah,
that was a smart move against Olivier. I don't know if I've seen a couple like that this year, and mostly with Olivier, um, when he's had fights. Delorier and him, that fight, man, that was a big boy fight.
Oh, it sure was. Now, there's a lot of people, and I've written that the game doesn't need it anymore. I've written that going back any number of years at different times. It's just so fast and so full of skill on its own that it's my opinion that phasing out fighting wouldn't necessarily hurt the game in any way and might help it. Now, that's my side of things. Can you explain to people who abhor fighting in the game, which they look at and they say, in any other walk of life, that's a felony, and do away with it? Explain from the point of view of the game, and you mentioned the passion of it, but the game and how it fits in your estimation.
Well, it sometimes sounds barbaric to talk about. I agree with that, but this is an emotional game. I think they've phased it out to the right point with not allowing it in junior hockey anymore in Canada to a degree. If you have more than 3 fights in a couple of those CHL leagues, I think it's banned in the Quebec League, or it's penalized in the Quebec League, much like college hockey.
Right.
There's an emotional part of this game, and I think a few years ago the league was going faster and with more skill on the fourth line. And now you're seeing teams desperate to find a character player that'll do that and stand up for their teammates. Olivier is the perfect example of the modern day tough guy. 18 goals last year. He's in double digits again this year. He's hard to play against. He holds on to pucks.
14. Yeah.
Holds on to pucks. Can score goals. But listen, I think a guy. Look, last night, two goaltenders fought. Igor Shesterkin fought the biggest goaltender in the league in Markstrom, Devils Rangers, the passionate fan bases. Who saw that coming, but who didn't love it, including Igor? So I'll go back to it. The emotion of the game, the physicality of the game, but the dynamic in the locker room. And knowing that you can fight, or knowing that you can that's an element within the game, that someone, things get heated, the gloves come off, you take care of it. It's taken care of like men. It's done. It's addressed, and you go, instead of always looking to the ref. He did this. He did. Well, look at that. They did that. Like, just take care of it and move forward. I think that's the greatest part of our game, is that you can settle it on the playing field without the nonsense, the dramatics. And I look at a guy like Zach Werenski, and I honestly think Werenski needs a fight. I think that it would help him a little bit. I thought he was going to fight last night against Aho. He thought Aho got the better of him on a slew foot. I agree with him. I would have liked to seen Werenski grab Aho and shake the gloves off and show him how tough Werenski is. It is a great feeling when the fight's over. You see your teammates, you're energized. It's something different. You did something out of your comfort zone. It brings you into a different area of the game. You're more engaged. There's just there's a boost. And when you're in a locker room with a guy who will fight, and it's a little bit of a contagious energy, it's an advantage.
Well, two more things here on this subject before we move on to the Jackets and at Carolina, where you are now in Raleigh, or Cary, or wherever you're situated.
I don't know where I am.
That's part of your life on the road. I mean, John Forsland was saying that the other day. I've been waking up and I don't even know where I am, because it's been 12 cities in 15 days or whatever.
I tell people I'm everywhere, but I'm nowhere, because I'm on a plane, in a hotel, and back on a plane. I was in Denver 48 hours ago, but was I really in Denver?
You're
I
like
saw
the CIA then.
Yeah.
But one element too that I recognize is integral to fighting's coupling with the game of hockey, and never mind its history with the game, which goes back probably as far as Long Lake in Ontario. But it is that element at the NHL level. You mentioned teams trying to get that guy. There are teams. I think of Toronto last when Radko Gudas goes knee on knee with Austin Matthews and ends Matthews' season, and there was a big uproar in Toronto. But there's an uproar about everything in Toronto, but a legitimate uproar about the fact that no one attended to Gudas after he took out one of the best players in the game, the captain of the Maple Leafs, and that, of course, Ty Domi answered when they were in Anaheim just the other night, right off the puck drop, and Gudas really didn't even defend himself. Where I'm going with this, Jody, is even Toronto tried to add some of that character, and it didn't work out for him last year. To have a guy like Matthew Olivier, and not only that, someone like Goodbranson to back him up, it does change the tenor on the ice. I noticed last night that with Olivier gone, Carolina was, how shall we say, they skated a little freer, and they thought they could get away with a little more. To have the sheriff on your team does change a dynamic of the game, does it not?
100%. Have you ever played pickup basketball in the streets anywhere?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I used to too. And we used to play against the guys that if you drove the lane, they were going to take a chunk of flesh out of you. And if they drove the lane and you touched them, you were probably going home with a fat lip, and the basketball game was over. But you show up with a guy who's not afraid to hack the guy coming through the lane, and the guy coming through the lane understands that, hey, this guy can hack me. He plays a little quieter. And you know what? It's a different ball game. It just goes back to the schoolyard to me. It's just a different element. You're showing up there and just playing on the perimeter and trying to pass the ball and all that. You get to the lane, you get hacked, and you start whining about it. Guess what? No one's listening.
Right.
So there's an element of that within the team. And you tell me, would you rather be on a team that if Michael Arace gets knee on knee in the middle of the ice and you look around, you're laying on the ice in front of your fans and you look around, no one's doing anything. They're looking at the ceiling or looking at their skates. What does that say about your team? It should be automatic. Like you hear about being a brotherhood, these teams that win championships. The Florida Panthers are a great example. 2 Stanley Cups. They ran teams out of there. They didn't necessarily have to fight, but they had the element. There was people in their lineup that would fight. So you knew that you weren't going to go after the star players, or you were going to go after. If you did, there'd be a lineup to come after you, and that is a true team. Team is sticking together in all situations, wins, losses. When it gets tough, when it's easy, it's all fun. And the important part of this. So I'm a guy that did that role. And I was with the San Jose Sharks, of course, the Blue Jackets, the Rangers, and the Flyers. But with the Sharks, I was on a President's Trophy winning team. And I had a small role, but it was an important role. And whether it was a look from Rick Nash with the Columbus Blue Jackets or Joe Thornton from the San Jose Sharks, whatever it was, Rob Blake, whether it was a look or what I said or what I brought within the game, I knew I was a part of that team. And it was an important part, and they appreciated it. And it's just... that's the locker room stuff. We can all sit outside. I can sit on any side of any sport and say, why do they do that? Why is that like that? But within the team, the dynamic, it's the most critical part is standing up for each other. And you have to have a leader in that category.
I think we'll end this with the thought, what you don't know when you have a guy in that role on your team who does it well, what you don't know is what's prevented. You can't prove the negative. Like, how many injuries were avoided, for instance, to put it in a clunky fashion. But how much calmer the ice was, you can't measure that. Fair?
I watch Olivier measure or keep the temperature of the game many games when he doesn't fight. It's a look. He just has a look now. He just has to look at the other bench or say something. And he'll say something to the other bench times when I'm between the benches at ice level to the other team or some guy on the other team. And the other guy on the other team will either over-explain, like, oh, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. It was him. Or he'll just pretend he didn't hear him. And the rest of the bench is going, what are you doing? Like, quit it. We don't want to wake that guy up.
Don't
Because the
poke the
next thing
bear.
he's going to do, he's going to run somebody, and then someone has to go fight him and get beat up for you and your nonsense. So it's a great dynamic, and I hope it never leaves the game, because just the fabric of a good team has that, could shake the gloves off. And I love the team toughness. That's really where I think it's at. Like with the Stanley Cup champions lately, and you look at Tampa and how they've got that more will to fight starting from training camp this year. That's because of the Florida Panthers. They're not the
Yeah.
Broad Street Bullies. I mean, that was an era you saw come in, and that was dominance in a different time. This is a new time. This is the evolution in 2026. But there is an element of this passion and the physicality of the game that it's an awesome, a fabulous dynamic of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you talk about the dynamics of a good team. Jody, there's this notion out there that the Blue Jackets, if they get into the playoffs, would be a very tough out for some of the reasons we just described. Fair, unfair, your feelings on that?
I agree. They play as a team. They're deep when they're playing together. The goaltending is good enough. The experience is good enough. The coach, all the boxes are checked. But it's because they play well. They're a 5-man attack, 5-man defense team. And when they're a little off, they look like they're hesitant, and they use the word disconnected a little. That's a word that is thrown around every team, connected or disconnected.
Right.
And it's a fine line with a team that this sport, one superstar is not going to win you a Stanley Cup. Wayne Gretzky will tell you that. He will go through his whole roster of team players in the 80s and tell you how important everyone's role was on that team. You need to play as a team and a unit, and the stars need to find their game. Maybe game 3 or 4, it happens within a series. Maybe it's game 5 and 6 when they get in the first round of the series where they get going. But the elements within the team, I think this Blue Jackets team has it. They have good centermen. They know their roles to a T. When Severson, that's a big miss this year. Didn't think we would say that last year. He's a big miss this year. That's a right-handed shot that can get out of his own end, which is such a big part of the game. I agree with that narrative.
Now, I think one element they're lacking, and not to be too critical here of some very good players, but there is a elite level superstar forward that is lacking, and I think they feel it. They feel it on nights when the margin for error is down, and everyone's in Zach Werenski's shooting lane now. You can see that, and so.
But see, he doesn't think so. He doesn't think so.
Yeah,
Zach's not going to shoot the puck just to shoot it. Zach is calculated. He said I've had conversations with him, and he says I can get the puck through anytime, but I'm not just going to shoot it to shoot it. It's like a turnover. So he's looking for another play. But I know what you mean. He's getting crowded a little bit. He's the head of the snake. If we go back to Ken Hitchcock's terms, I agree with that.
Right. Anyway, let's talk about the team now, Jody. They finished December 22nd to January 1st, 4-1. They lost a few games. The coach got fired. 7-4-1 in January. Of course, then bonus was in the process of taking off. Recently, a 12-game unbeaten streak. They were 19-2-4, I believe, under bonus, until they hit this present rough patch.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the last 6 games they've lost 5, one in a shootout, 1-4-1 in their last 6, heading into tomorrow night's game in Carolina. It is Wednesday, the 1st of April, and we're recording right around dinner time, just to situate you. Is it as simple as Severson is out week to week with presumably a shoulder injury? That's what it looked like anyway. Olivier is out now. I assume broken hand. Also, Voronkov's out, so you take Olivier out, and you don't have Voronkov to insert, and there's a size element of power forward that's missing. Is it as simple to attribute this 1-4-1 stretch to playing some good teams and missing some key players?
No, I don't think so. I think that the Boston game, you lose Olivier, Severson's already out. The poise of Severson with the puck to get out of your own end, where you can stop momentum, the freedom without Olivier, and Olivier's impact of holding on to pucks and killing momentum against the other team in that game. That was a gut punch after a tough loss against the Sharks. That was a tough weekend. They win that, they have breathing room, those two games. And they had the Boston game. So that's a tough weekend. How do you rebound? You face Carolina at home. And Carolina gets a 2-goal lead off 2 power plays. And when they get a lead, guess what? They lock it down. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. So those three losses to me, no. I think that they were back in that game when Marchenko scored a goal. I think that there's enough of a team concept here and enough of a group that learned from last year when they had a 6-game slide and missed the playoffs by 2 points, that they understand that they've fought to get back in this position, and now they've got to fight to get this win tomorrow night. And they got to win 4 of 7. That's what I look at it, because
you think so?
The other teams aren't winning. Yeah, I think so. I think 4 of 7 might do it. No one's winning. Schedules are tough. I think the Blue Jackets look at this series. When you look at the first round of the playoffs, and I was just talking to someone else about this, but you look at the first round of the playoffs, you're going to feel the exact same way after if it's Carolina, Blue Jackets, and Game 1 was played last night in Carolina. This is how we're going to feel as fans. You know what I mean? It's going to be, because there's going to be so much excitement going into the playoffs. Here we go. It's Carolina. They match up well. All the storylines going in. Game 1, bang, they beat you. What do? This is a day off between games. You regroup. You get energized. You look at some of the matchups. Aho, Coyle last night was one of the best face-off matchups I've seen. Werenski and Aho slew-footed them. Okay, the temperature's going up in this series. So now Game 2's tomorrow night in Carolina. You got a chance to win that game and go home. So this is going to happen in the playoffs as well, but they've got to pick themselves off the mat. The goaltending has been good enough. I think the defensemen, there's not as much poise at times when Severson's not out there, so you have to be it's got to be more of a team game and less mistakes. Carolina makes every team look bad at times during games. The Blue Jackets can fight through that. And that it can have an impact. It can't be an excuse, but I believe in this team, because all year and during this run, especially with Bowness since he got here, you've had different goal scorers every night. You've had different players step up, whether it's Matejchuk scoring goals or Provorov from the blue line. Like, there's different elements in this team. And I think there's enough learned last year that they're not going to let this opportunity slide with 7 games left.
Yeah,
they got a bounce last night. Teams lost. Teams below them lost.
Yeah, all of them did. But my sense coming out of the locker room last night was along the lines of exactly what you said. Is they were not discouraged. They didn't like losing, obviously. They didn't like the way the third period went, etc. But that said, the chins were up, the heads were held high, and I think and they were actually looking forward to going to Carolina to let's go. Okay, let's go again, round 2.
I love that it's a home and home. I think it's at a perfect time, because if this is a first round matchup and this game gets out of hand tomorrow night, you start taking numbers and taking flesh and leaving some bruises, because you set the tone for game number 1. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do.
Yes. Yep.
You do it. You get the 2 points, You secure it, and then you start. That's the goal tomorrow going into this game. That's what I'd be saying in the locker room.
Not one step back, right?
Lean into this one tomorrow night. Lean way in.
That was Tort's famous line in his locker room speech prior to Game 1 against
that's right.
Lightning, and not one step back, and he might have had a couple of expletives with hard consonants thrown in there as well.
But that's just punctuation.
Yeah, exactly. While I brought him up, let me ask you: Have you spoken with Torts, or did you text
No,
him
I
after
haven't.
you got the job?
I wish I kept more in contact with him, but I haven't sent him a text. I'm so happy for him. That's I think it's a great move.
What's your take on that?
I love the move. I when the Devils did it, when was that? When they brought in Larry Robinson, early 2000s.
I remember that. 2002. I want to say.
What are they doing? Well, you know what? It's a long season. It's a long year. It's a long couple of years. It's a long 5 years or 6 years with Cassidy. Make the move. And Torts that's his perfect team. He's going to bring a different breath, a different attitude, a different approach. And we know Torts. I think it's they're going to try to play faster, which we all know it's going to be going north. There's no D to D allowed with John Tortorella. So that's good for that team. And I think it makes it more interesting out there in the West. I think there's a couple more teams that could actually benefit from firing their coach at this point of the year, but I'm not going to speak on that too much. Some of these teams that are in it amazes me because it comes down to coaching. A lot of this comes down to coaching. Jared Bednar is one of the best I've seen with preparation for his team. And I wonder when I watch the coaches in game with everything going on, it's going to be a huge factor here as we hit the playoffs.
What Bowness has done here in Columbus is extraordinary. What are your thoughts on Rick Bowness and what are they now? They're 19. They're 26-1 under Rick Bowness since January the 11th.
Yeah, I think he's done a good job of that. None of that matters to him until he gets his team in the playoffs, and he's very level-headed. I see him. He's wearing it. Like, this is a lot of work. He's enjoying the work. He's done a really good job of getting to know his players and keeping them up to speed on where they fit in on his team, whether it's off the power play or, on the power play or why they didn't get much ice time in the game because of all the minors who didn't forget about you. He's very in tune with what players need to know, and he prepares them well, and he has got the parameters up for how they have to play. So I think he's done a really good job communicating, teaching, but not teaching too much, just laying out expectations for each individual. And I think that's why they've been on this run.
Now, if you had a vote for coach, so as broadcasters, what are your votes? You get the Jack Adams, right?
Jack Adams, yeah.
So coach of the year. So, without revealing what your ballot's going to look like, I mean, I've seen talk out there that, Bowness is in consideration, which is extraordinary given that he started this job. His introductory press conference was on January the 12th.
Yeah. I mean, you got to consider it if he gets them in the playoffs. This is a team that's last in the East, Any team that's got a bump like that and gets back to where they should be and beyond, and the voting is done before playoffs, so before playoffs start. So
yeah,
if he takes them to a Stanley Cup final, then of course he gets the vote. But I look at John Cooper and what he's done. He's never won a Jack Adams. He's done it with a team down there in Tampa. That where were they going to end up? What were their expectations to start the year? Right. I mean, of course they have Vasilevsky and Kucherov, but there's been a lot of injuries on that team this year. There's been a lot of step backs where he's had to grab them and say, "This is how we play." There's been some other surprises, I guess. I mean, you look at Dan Muse in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's in the playoffs. Marty St. Louis, I think, has done a great job with the Montreal Canadiens. So there's a lot of good coaches out there and some good stories around the National Hockey League. But the John Cooper one jumped out to me early, which I think is well deserved. I mean, it's one thing to coach as long as he has in one spot. But there's been a lot of pieces in and out of there, which shows you coaching. And I guess, show me a good coach, I'll show you a great goaltender. I think the saying something like that. Give me a good goaltender, I'll show you a great coach. And that's a factor. But he's done a really good job there. So I think you see where my vote might be leaning. But I like the consideration for Rick Bowness.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. And man, if he can whip this nag down the stretch. And get them in the playoffs. That would be an next, because there's just generally speaking, people outside of Columbus, just generally speaking, the Jackets have been such an anonymous team for so long that if they win, 19 out of 26, and then lose 5 in a row, it's or go 1-4-1 in their next 6, any talk about them disappears on a national level. You know what I mean? It's like, like in Toronto, they're talking about who's going to be the next GM of the Maple Leafs. You know what I mean? They're not, or how's they're talking about anything but Columbus. But geez, I forgot where I was going with this thought. I'll just
they only
ask
talk
you
about
this.
the Leafs there, which they should. It's a tough market. But no, the Blue Jackets, you're right. I mean, they got to get in the playoffs. They got to grab this now. This losing streak has to end. And that's really the essence of it. It's got to end tomorrow night in Carolina, because last year the 6-game losing streak cost them the playoffs. So learn, stop it, win, feel good, go home and win, then take another look at the standings.
That's right. Lastly, while we're on trophy talk, Jody, my feeling is if the Blue Jackets, and again, the voting ends prior to the end of the regular season or just after it. If the Jackets get in the playoffs, Zach Werenski is probably going to win the Norris. That's my feeling, taking the temperature out there. Is that yours as well?
I think so. There's talk of Bouchard, who's leading point getter right now out in Edmonton. Cale Makar's hurt. Cale Makar is a 2-time Norris Trophy winner with the Colorado Avalanche. Plays with McKinnon and the likes of him almost every shift. Quinn Hughes has tailed off a little bit. For me, it's Zach Werenski. He's had especially the first 2/3 of the season, he was all world. Game's getting tighter. This is more of a team game now with the Blue Jackets. It's his to take, and I think it's time for Zach. He's an experienced guy. He's got the skill set that if you're going to start a team, and really when you look at these trophies, if you're going to start a team next year, which defenseman would you take first? And there's arguments for all of them up there, but the way Zach's playing, he would be give him the Norris Trophy.
Well, put another way, he might be the most valuable defenseman to his team in the league.
Yeah, and every team would love to have him.
Yeah, I think there's little doubt about that. All right, Jody. You're in Raleigh. No skate tomorrow, I think you said.
No skate tomorrow. No. They practiced today. So, they practiced today at home, got on the plane, flew to Raleigh. So no skate tomorrow morning. Meetings in the hotel for the players, and then hit the arena just for the game. I like that. I used to like that as a player. Yeah, I used to like when Torch was here. There'd be no practice today, no skate tomorrow, show up at the game. Really puts it on the players to be ready. And he did it all year long when he was coaching here. And I think it served them well.
Well, that's Jody Shelley of Amazon, TNT, and, of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Jody, I'd love to do this again soon, because I've been talking with different broadcasters about the situation with the death of regional sports networks, and I don't know who will be writing you a check next year in Columbus. It's a very good question. But anyway, that's for another day. Jody, I really enjoyed the conversation per usual. You've been a big supporter of the disrespected.com as well. In fact, I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but it was Jody that pushed me off this cliff. I quit after 43 years in the newspaper business, 26 at the Dispatch. We were sitting in the Nationwide Arena in February of last year, and I was whining, and you told me, shut up and write a business plan. And so I did. And this is where the disrespected.com, Cannonballs, and the Crucible all started. More to come. That's Jody Shelley, ladies and gentlemen. Jody, thank you for being here, and we'll hope to have you back soon.
Michael, well, I'm glad you took the plunge, man. You're too skilled and talented and know too much about our markets, all sports in our markets and all over the world, to not have a platform like this. And yes, I'm a proud member of the disrespected.com, and thanks for having me on your podcast here, Cannonballs.
Oh, that's great. Just hang on 1 second, Jody, while I say goodbye. Thanks for joining us for the Cannonballs podcast. Please visit thedisrespected.com. Jody is one of the original subscribers. Don't let that deter you. He's actually a very nice man. Like, subscribe, share, rate, and review, etc. It helps. Thanks again, everybody. And, we'll talk to you again soon.
Something Columbus is the name for passing through. Forgotten franchises, they tried to steal the crew. Flyover country left the jackets feeling blue. Fire up no deck and noise, we have a place for you. We love to talk Columbus Crew. Blue jackets finally get their due. We cover pro